Welcome to Sober Talk. I'm Dennis and I have lived experience of alcohol. If you or anyone you know is struggling with alcohol, please call Alcoholics Anonymous on 1300 222222 or check out their website on aa.org.au. I'll just run through the preamble of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other. They must solve their common problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses or opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety.
Hey, I'm Harri. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been asked to record this for the last 4 years and I never got around to doing it because I always think, and what can I share that would be any good? And the truth of it is I just got to share my truth. When I was a young lad, I was always a bit shy and introverted and I really didn't fit in. And, but there was a going away party for some people when I was like 15 years old and, the gloves were taken off. I was allowed to have some drinks. I was, drinking brandy and coke and whatever it was. And I had a really good time and I was able to get up and dance floor and even talk to the adults and tell them whatever I was saying. I don't really remember much of it, but a few weeks later there was a school social. Never been to the school social because I never really went anywhere like that. But I got to my dad's bar and took a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and made myself a little hid flask of stuff and drank it in the laneway before I went to the school. I got into the school. I think Michael Jackson's Billie Jean was playing, and I just went straight on the dance floor. All my inhibitions were gone. I was dancing with the girls. It was all good. People were coming up to me saying, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm dancing." And they'd never seen me ever in a social setting like this. And funny thing was, a couple of weeks later, I had a girlfriend. So I always related alcohol to good things happening in my life. And so that's how it went on for years and years and years. I didn't really have any bad times with alcohol. All the good times were with alcohol. We used to go fishing and camping and always traveling, went to the snow, went here, went there, everywhere. And it was always alcohol was involved and nothing bad really happened. Now, a bit later on in the piece, I started getting injuries. Like I'd do funny things when I was drinking, like get great ideas like going, climb a few rocky outcrops, maybe even a mountain or something maybe. Definitely go driving in the countryside. You can't get in much trouble doing that, can you? Mind you, every time I drove my car across the Murray River, we always crashed it somewhere. I always thought that my problem was not that I was drinking, but across the river. If I don't cross the river, I won't get into trouble. How crazy is that? And so anyway, I had these great experiences drinking, whatnot, and later on in life, I got married and tried to settle down, and it didn't work out because by this stage, I liked drinking. I liked drinking a lot, and living life without alcohol wasn't easy. And so I'd go to work and I'd do my job and get the money and give the money to the missus and buy some food, and what little money I had left over, I'd drink. And, I thought I was doing great. I loved drinking. I loved the way it made me feel, the way I was. And then she got sick of my drinking and put her foot down and I had to stop. And I couldn't stop because I just kept thinking about it all the time. I just thought, how can I live life without it? And, and I'd stop for a few days at a time and even a week maybe or something, but inevitably I put something else into my system to take the edge off, and I could never quite get clear of it. And one day I had this idea. I don't know where the idea came from, but I rang up directories and asked for a number for Alcoholics Anonymous. And I rang them up and talked to a fellow on the line and talked about how little I actually drank, and didn't tell him the truth, of course. And he didn't seem to think I had an alcohol problem. I just wanted him to tell my wife that, I'll be right. But he wouldn't. He wouldn't say that. He said that I should probably go and have a look at a meeting and see if, if I went to a meeting, maybe I could find out the truth. And so I went along to Brompton Beginners, and I met two fellas at the door, and they were very welcoming. They welcomed me in, and showed me where to get a cup of coffee and whatever. And I listened in on the meeting. There was a guest speaker. He shared his experience, strength and hope. And what experience he had was that he was a professional cyclist, and he tried his best to make a career of it. And I myself was like a sportsman. I loved playing sport. I played all kinds of different sports. I played volleyball from a little kid. I played ice hockey. I was playing floorball and beach volleyball, Olympic twos, and indoor volleyball, and racing around me bicycle, and you name it. I was into it, but I could never quite cut it because I just couldn't get past my thinking. My thinking always led me back to drinking. And here we were. Anyway, so I was coming to AA and just coming to meetings, and that's all I was really doing. I was playing all these sports and coming to meetings, and everyone kept saying, keep coming back. And I was really happy to keep coming back because everywhere else in the world, people were saying, don't you ever come back here again. We don't want you around here. And sometimes I'd go back to these places where they'd told me not to come back, and they'd say, we told you not to come back. And I said, well, when did you say that? And they said, well, that was just yesterday. And I go, geez, I don't remember that. Well, the thing was that when I drink, I'm in blackout. I'm still performing. I'm still going through the actions, but I don't remember what I'm doing. And this went on and on and on. Anyway, so I'm in AA now, and I'm coming to meetings. I'm still not sure if I'm alcoholic or not. There was a few ideas put to me that maybe I could give it a go. And one of the things was that I could go to my nearest bar and have a drink and stop abruptly, see if I could just stop at one or two drinks. And if I could do that, then maybe I'm not an alcoholic. I could just get back to do what I was doing. And so after about 3 months in AA, I just thought I'd do that. So I went out and gave it a crack. And in the end, I ended up drinking for another 3 months. And I was pretty sick at this stage by now. And I came back into AA again. Now, I thought I'd do 6 months of AA and I should be cured now. And so I did 6 months of AA, and then I gave it another crack, and I went out there. And now it got worse. Even though I hadn't been drinking for 6 months, my alcoholism was doing exercising in the background. And I was worse than ever. My alcohol consumption just went through the roof. I was making up for lost time. Now I managed to lose my license this time around, the first time, and now I was bleeding. I started bleeding out of my mouth and other places, and I was getting really crook. I couldn't even have the morning drink. I was that sick, and so off to the doctor I went and told him what I was doing, and he gave me some things that I needed to take just to stop the bleeding. But I went back to AA and kept going to meetings, and my mind was getting more cooked as time went on from consumption of alcohol. And it took me a long time to accept that there was this program on offer and that maybe I should do something about it. Now, I had a sponsor, and he was doing the best that he could with me, but I was belligerent. I wasn't willing to do anything. I wasn't even willing to read the big book. And eventually I changed sponsors, and I changed sponsors a few times. And every time I am with a sponsor and they'll get me so far into it and they'll just pull up stumps and, nah, not doing that. It took the gift of desperation before I was willing to do anything real. I was stood at the turning point. I was willing to do anything. I asked for help. A sponsor was there. They helped me through the process of the steps. I worked through the process of steps, one step at a time. It wasn't that hard, really, in the end. I made a big molehill over the whole thing. I used to think that doing step 4 was going to be the hardest thing ever. It wasn't that hard to write it all out. Once I'd got it all out on paper and my inventory had been done, the next thing was to tell someone. By this stage, I was that broken enough that I was willing to let go of it all. I went to the person that was helping with it, and I told them all about it and got rid of it. And all those secrets that I had of my past doings, of my fear imagery, sex imagery, the resentments, I got them out. The relief was just basically immediate. I had this immediate relief of telling all this stuff. I went home and reflected on the first 5 propositions for an hour, and then went back to a sponsor and we started working through the rest of the steps. Now, when I got to, my defects of character, I didn't think I had any. So I kind of like skimmed over it a bit and just got cracking onto my list of people I was harmed. When I wrote down my list of people I harmed, I wrote it down in 3 columns like it says, but the problem was I didn't know where most of the people were. I didn't know who these people were either, and I had like 3 columns, and one column was all the people I was harmed and I didn't know who they were. Another column was all the people I had harmed and I knew who they were, and the third column was all the people I harmed and I have no idea where they are. So that was a bit tricky. And I went out to make my amends. I went around apologizing to people and I found a bunch of people that I could make amends to. So that's what I did. I went and sought these people out. I made amends wherever possible. I even got to the point of there was a bunch of people I owed money to, and the money I owed them wasn't that much, but it was still money that I owed them. And so therefore I even traveled overseas to pay off my financial debts to people that I'd borrowed money from over there from years ago. The next thing I did was I went to meetings. I accepted this new way of life and I started working towards what my higher power had in store for me. But I started to live the program one day at a time, always working towards the greater good of AA as a whole. I was always looking for people that I could help in AA and outside of AA and continue doing this. Along the way, I was doing a lot of AA camps and roundups and fellowship in general. And I got myself a string of sponsees to work with. And, at one stage I didn't have any sponsees, and one of my grand sponsor came up to me and says, "Oh, who you got sponsoring now?" And I said, "I haven't got anyone. No one's ever asked me." And he said to me, "Well, where's it say in the big book that you had to wait for them to ask you?" And so therefore I was about to ask someone if I could help them out, and along came my first sponsee and he says, "Can you help me out?" And I said, "Okay, no worries." And we set a time in the morning that he could ring me before the start of the day and we could have a chat. And about a day or two later, another person asked me, and then another person, another person. Next thing you know, I'm getting 5 phone calls every morning from 5 different people and giving them passing on the knowledge that I had from my sponsor on how to work through this process, and it got me really busy. I was still doing these tag-alongs up the top end and everywhere else we were going, and meeting up with all the old timers, and basically having a great time, just staying sober. And but there was still something missing in my life. I just couldn't put my finger on it. And along about that time, I met my wife. And when I met her, it was like the whole world opened up again. Now, I would have never have met her if I hadn't have been sober. And I've been married to her now for 8 years, and in that period of time, we've had ourselves a little baby boy, and I didn't have any purpose to life until I turned to AA. And when I was in AA, I kind of hit a wall, and I needed to ask for help again. And I got through the steps, and I got to the other end of that. I started working this every day of my life, and there was something else that I needed. God would provide for me if I just worked the program. And now I've got this beautiful family. I've got my wife and my son. And, I still haven't had a drink or a drug in all this time. I'm still living the program best of my ability. It was, how many years? I've been sober now since 8th of November 2002. So that makes me 22 years sober. Dennis has been asking me to do this recording, I don't know how long. I think he said it's been taking me 4 years to work me into saying it. And so here we are, we're doing it now. And I'm ever so grateful to have the opportunity to be of service to AA. And throughout my recovery, we've had a lot of hiccups and whatnot. My mother passed away, and I had to help out with the funeral and get all that sorted out. A few years later, my father passed away. I had to do all of that. We've been working on visas and this, that, and the other, but all the stuff that happens in life is just there to, either test you or help you grow. And without AA, I wouldn't have been able to cope with any of it. And it's been a hard journey, but also a very rewarding journey to get to where I am today. And now I'm proud to say that I'm an alcoholic and a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Harri. Good share, mate.
Plain Language Big Book, a tool for reading Alcoholics Anonymous. How it works. It's very rare for someone to completely commit to the AA program and still fail. People who do not recover are the ones who can't or won't follow this simple program. They are usually people who simply cannot be honest with themselves. We don't meet a lot of people like this, but they do exist. It is not their fault. They seem to have been born that way. But because they cannot be honest with themselves, they are unlikely to succeed in their recovery. There are also people who suffer from emotional and mental disorders and join AA to address their alcoholism. Many of them do recover if they are able to be honest along their journey. Many of the stories we share in this book describe experiences that we have had ourselves. We share stories about what we used to be like, what happened to us, and what our lives are like now. If you feel like we did and want to stop drinking, then you are ready to get started. You are ready to take these steps toward recovery. When we started, some of those first steps scared us. We thought we could find an easier way. But we could not. Since we know this now from our own experiences, we're asking you to be fearless and thorough from the start. Some of us tried to keep our old ideas, and they just held us back. Until we let go of those ideas, we were unable to make progress. Remember that we are dealing with a disease. Alcoholism is a confusing and powerful condition that is unlike anything else in the world. Alcohol is extremely complicated, tricky, and difficult. It seems to control and punish people who are addicted to it. Without help, beating alcoholism is too much for one person to handle. We all need guidance from God, support from a higher power. And we need to ask for that support with full and open hearts. We stand at a turning point. We asked for God's protection and care with all the honesty we have. The 12 steps here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. Were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. If this is your first time reading through these steps, they may seem difficult or even impossible. Do not be discouraged. No one has ever followed these principles perfectly. We are not saints. We are simply people who are trying to grow, both spiritually and personally. These ideas are here to guide our progress. And our goal is spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. In Chapter 4 we shared a description of alcoholics who do not believe in God. Combined with that, we believe the stories of our experiences as AA members all boil down to 3 simple ideas. A. That we were alcoholics and could not manage our own lives. B. That no human power could have stopped or changed our alcoholism. C. That God could and would help us if we tried to find God.
We have local meetings for the full week in the local area. Monday is Gala meeting at 8 o'clock. Tuesday is Elizabeth East at 8 o'clock. Wednesday is Elizabeth East at 8 o'clock. Thursday is Two Wells at 8 o'clock. And Friday is Salisbury at 8 o'clock. There's a meeting at Davron Park at 12 o'clock, and on Sunday there's a meeting in Salisbury at 7 o'clock. And many other meetings in the area. For details of your local meetings, please phone 1300 22 2222. And once again, if anyone you know is struggling with alcohol issues, please call Alcoholics Anonymous on 1300 22 2222. The website is aaSouthAustralia.org.au.